education, if people cannot see what impact it has on their daily lives, I think we will struggle. And when we're thinking about utility, art, culture, music, dance, books, literature, film, are such an important part of our lives and our culture. And that's the sector in which I work. And we see the application of different types of technologies in this sector. And I feel like that's a sector where if we can find strong utility for Bitcoin, we'll have multiple layers of impact. We'll have impact in terms of the business models in that sector, which has a massive impact on the economy, but also it will have massive impact on the way that Bitcoin is perceived. The example I was giving in the panel before was, imagine artists are talking about being Bitcoiners. I remember doing a study in Nigeria, I think it was in 2019, also 2020, and the study was looking at young people in Nigeria and what influences young people in Nigeria, and the categories of people that influence them the most. Can anybody guess? What is who influences Nigerian young people the most? Artists, exactly, artists. It was really shocking. I thought it would be religious leaders, but it was not, it was artists. So imagine if you have a generation of Nigerian African artists that are Bitcoiners, using Bitcoin in their business and their lives, it would make so much of a difference, I think, in terms of adoption. So that's why we're here. So I'm going to allow this wonderful panel to introduce themselves very quickly. We'll take it from you. It's about 1 minute introduction, who you are, how you got here. I don't need air, but the music coming up was so epic. I really feel so important. Now I'm told that artists are the most important people in this conference. So my name is CcHUB. I'm from Kenya, and I started something called African Digital Arts almost now 15 years ago, when I was told that there was no electricity in Africa, so I was learning digital arts. It sounds like it was ancient times, but it wasn't really. It was pretty contemporary. And so a lot of the work that I did was basically, as a digital artist myself, was to introduce and also help foster a community of digital artists who are interested in the intersection between creativity and technology. So I think as new technology was being adopted within the continent, we always trying to figure out how can we make this a solution-based thing. Whereas most of my work goes completely to the other side, which is the creative side. Like how can we use our imagination? How can we create new possibilities? How can we create new worlds and new ways of thinking? And especially for our continent that is on the cusp of a huge revolution, with the majority of people from this continent who are younger than me, I felt it was a sense of personal duty to take up this African digital arts realm and understand it in order for generations to come to ask me like, oh, what were you doing when the big digital revolution happened, when Bitcoin changed the concept? What activities were you part of? Because it was such a critical time. So I think that digital art, as a result of Bitcoin, as a result of all of these new technologies taking place, has sort of put digital art into the center stage, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm here to discuss this. Thanks so much, Momo.
Good afternoon. My name is Momo. I am from Nairobi as well. I am a content creator and upcoming Bitcoin influencer. My main job is helping people understand and appreciate the great products that developers are building and how to be able to use them. I think the gift that I've been given is I find something that is extremely hard to understand, and I make it easy for people to understand because I hold those conversations about Bitcoin with my 8-year-old, and that's really peculiar for me because I want it to be as accessible as possible. I'm really excited to be here and also to help drive the conversation on how arts and entertainment can be able to make use of Bitcoin, especially in this continent. Great to be here. Thank you.
Yes, I Nigeria primarily. So yeah, I've been in the music industry for about the last 10 to 15 years or so. Ran one of the first VC-backed streaming platforms out of Lagos. Set up Sony Music in West Africa in about 2013, 14. Signed the likes of Wizkid, Davido, Techno, Sony Music, Columbia Records, RCA Records. And today I have probably one of the largest content creation spaces in Lagos called the Freedom Space. Been in Bitcoin since about 2016, and funny enough, it was based on the fact, trying to facilitate a transaction, had some issues with some funds getting frozen, transacting with the US bank, and someone advised me, hey, check this thing called Bitcoin out. And so when I first got, on the toes because of the utility, using Bitcoin to transact across the continent and across the world.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Let's jump straight into it. You've already talked about micro opportunity around transacting. I'd like us to really dig deeper into the opportunities that we see for Bitcoin in arts and entertainment in Africa. Just to start on that question. The opportunities have been quite incredible since 2017 when people were starting to ask what digital art is. Because a lot of folks didn't really understand or recognize where digital arts belong in culture and creativity. And then also there's always been within the art sector and the tech sector, there's always this missing gap we talk about when it comes to Africa. We talk about how comes, our African artists are so talented, so incredible, and so diverse, but they don't have communities of support or financial support. The majority of our institutions, our art institutions, are funded and supported by other governments, other foreign governments, and there's been it's been about decades, even since before I was born, of artists, organizers, and community folks trying to bring together curators and also collectors and find a way for them to interact and engage. And Bitcoin has been this way of anonymizing this community that needs to get together. People are trying to mingle them together. And it's also been a way of artists also finding financial support and also an economic way of taking their work seriously. So I can't speak enough about the importance of this space, and I think it's quite revolutionary. And one of the reasons why we're feeling all of these ups and downs is because most of us need to claim the space and also participate in and define what it is and what it means. Since 2017, I have met so many digital artists for the first time who had the ability to actually make a living. I have the ability to actually earn thousands of dollars, something that they would never have come across if it wasn't for this space. So I think digital arts has had a very unique opportunity of saying this is a direct case of how this can benefit the community, how this is an investment actually on this important culture that is going to continue taking more and more importance. Arts and culture is central to the technology space, and it's important for all of these spaces to emerge. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I think for myself, I think I'll pick first Wavelake. We have a Tanzanian Bitcoiner by the name Manlike Quex, who's actually used Wavelake to be able to build an income around his music. And that's something that artists can be able to use. We have apps like Thunder Games, where I know Mary is one of the big proponents, where gamers can go, and even enthusiasts can go and earn sats while playing games. And these are things that if you can be able to use this hobby to make you money, because so many artists start with, I love music or I love film, and it's that love that takes you there. What actually keeps you there is the opportunity to create an income out of it. I know there are places like Giza Fund where if you have a project that you have, you can be able to go there, tell people about the project, and people can fund you. And these are opportunities for us to be able to tell our African stories. If you're a musician, You can be able to ask your fans to fund your next album, and what better way to use Bitcoin? Because if you decide to use the normal ways, there are bottlenecks that exist. One of the biggest that I see, of course, is censorship. So if I'm an artist and I want to be critical of the government, then the government can follow my bank account and essentially muzzle my voice. But if I can be able to tell my people, you know what, I have Bitcoin, this is my address, this is what I'm talking about, and you want to support me, then come over on this side. I think one of the biggest things that we can be able to do as a community is let's educate the influential people who are in the art space, who are in the entertainment space, so that once these people know this thing, they can be at the forefront. They don't have to be the biggest educators, but we can use them as influencers to be able to grow the entertainment space. Yeah.
Right. I think what you're saying about Bitcoin, you know, Bitcoin is freedom money, obviously.
Yes.
But I think you're now introducing in there of freedom as it relates to artistic freedom.
Yes.
And artists being able to explore topics that are hot.
Exactly.
In Africa, I remember seeing a tweet yesterday, and somebody was saying something about how heartless the government is. Obviously an African person, and then somebody else tweets back to say, look, when you're saying these things, you need to be specific.
Yes.
Because there are many of us in this boat, so
Yes.
which one?
Yes.
So absolutely, that's a good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, what opportunities do you see in music, but also more broadly for arts and Bitcoin?
So, I mean, like in
arts, yeah, I think there's so many opportunities with regards to, both sides of the coin. I think that, we're talking about culture in general, from a Bitcoin perspective, our job is trying to onboard, as many people as possible to understand that, Bitcoin is that, currency for humanity. And if we're trying to do that, what better way than to use, artists, cultural ambassadors, in order to spread that kind of message. You see the biggest brands in the world, the biggest brands on the continent, use influential artists, use influential musicians in order to sell, their next brand, new toothpaste or a new washing powder. But what's more important is the toothpaste or washing powder, is it money, is it saving technology, right? And I think from the other perspective, from the artist's perspective as well, I think the Bitcoin, using Bitcoin as that foundational technology to spread your art, you now don't have limitations geographically, right? You can literally open up your works to a global market potentially. I know that obviously this is kind of crossing the surface there, and other issues underneath it, but I think there are massive opportunities on both sides of the coin.
Absolutely. And those issues, maybe we can start from you this time, Michael, those issues that stand in the way of being able to do that, can you talk about some of them?
I mean, the debates are obviously ongoing. I think that, one of the key things as part of the debate, about using Bitcoin for art is obviously fees, the issue around fees, which is, very well, it's very well understood. I think that's throwing it out to the devs in the building to be like, if you understand, the opportunities here, to grow Bitcoin adoption, then, there are ways that I'm sure that we can, resolve some of the issues around fees, maybe having some kind of like, priority fee basis for people who want to inscribe on Bitcoin, right? I think that's something to potentially look at. So there are many issues that technological perspective, a fees perspective, and what have you, but I think that, very solely, the opportunities to me, outweigh those potential issues. And as you see, I guess technology like audibles grow, we are getting to discover what are the issues, how can they be resolved, and the debates I think are healthy. I think whether or not we see art on Bitcoin is good or bad, I think the debates are healthy. I think that ultimately, the ultimate goal should be adoption. So yeah, that's my personal take.
Thank you. I feel like we said the dreaded word, how many people here are in favor of one else versus not? In favor of one else, please? Thanks. What else?
One of the biggest challenges is the current incentive structure in the entertainment space. You'll have the creative at the forefront, but when the money comes in, it goes to the suits who finance the whole thing. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we need to address, even as we try and find solutions in the entertainment space, because there is no point of someone earning 1%, and yet it is their creativity, it is their mind that we actually used for the 99% to be divided amongst everyone else. And that's one bone of contention that is there, because if I have fronted the money, then I need to eat. But if we can be able to build it, and especially have the artists, have the people who are in the entertainment space be at the forefront of building what they want to see. So that now, if I have this idea, I can be able to say, okay, I need a CTO who will be the developer with me on this project, but it's my project first of all. But on top of that, to also include collaboration, because there are so many projects that are happening around, and of course we want decentralization, that there's also power in building something that will work in South Africa, in West Africa, in East Africa, so that it helps each one of us. And if we can be able to build that, then all this will trickle down to every single artist that is in every single place, and that way we'll be able to grow that community.
Thank you. Just how do you think we can accelerate? I definitely believe that we have a lack of imagination. I think that we end up, when we are in the forefront of something, we end up reproducing what already exists. And already within the art and tech space, it's already pretty toxic. If you think about it, like the culture that creates these innovation spaces and like makes us live in teeny tiny silos where we're working so incredibly hard, but we're only working with these six people only in the whole universe are working on it. There's not much outreach into how we interact and engage with outside community. So one of the things that I found working with artists was that it just was like also such a huge block for them to really understand why Bitcoin is important. So a lot of the work that initially we were doing rather than creating like opportunities for people to actually earn money, that we ended up spending most of the time educating people exactly why Bitcoin is important, how can it benefit us. And it felt like it was almost 2 years of just having the same conversations where and very few people were reluctant to jump into the vortex. So I think that part of that is also trust. It's also trying to understand that long term, not just short term, of getting it out. A lot of artists are not interested in just dipping in and dipping out. We're actually thinking of how do I create my ecosystem? How do I create my livelihood from this? How can someone buy my artwork, invest in me over a long period of time? How can I watch my artwork accrue in value? How can I pass on a legacy? Like if I write a song or if I make an artwork, how can my grandchildren, great-grandchildren benefit this from this space? So I think that one of the problems that we have is our lack of imagination and putting ourselves into boxes and also defining ourselves in a way and being trapped a year later or 2 years later by something else changing. So one thing I can say is that this is a space that will take some time and investing, and part of that time comes with trust, building trust and seeing the value of having anonymous, sustainable economies that support creators. And that is something that is not only unique to Africa, where we don't have that kind of support, but it's actually a global problem because many artists are panicking about this new AI revolution and how it affects their work, their intellectual property, their value, and also their contribution to like humanity over time. So there are very many things, but I think that with with challenges come opportunities and also an ability to break things. And I think we should be in the process of breaking down how we think, breaking down how we see ourselves. And I really, really appreciate the keynote that was given earlier this morning, which was also just resetting our mind frame, thinking about who we are as Africans. Our generation and the people in this room might have a barrier, but the younger generation do not see themselves like the way we have been brought up. The world is changing extremely
blockchain is coming as it whole. Because it will really create a lot of adoption and a lot of movement if the followers of artists, just imagine, like almost the whole world knows whiskey, knows Rema, knows Davido, for instance, Black Sherry, I could go on and on. What if these people actually, I do know like some of them are making money off blockchain. Take for instance, Jazz, he's a producer in this one. But why do you think these people are silent over the blockchain and how to help the adoption increase? Yeah, that's my question.
Thank you for that. Let's see. Okay. Feel free to clap. We will ask you to go sad for clapping. Yes, go on.
Well, first of all, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is a question for you, Mr. Michael. How can we get people to understand the basics of what Bitcoin is and how can it be beneficial?
And how can it be
Beneficial.
Beneficial.
beneficial? Okay, got it. Thank you. We can take maybe one last question if there's still any, and then we can.
We have some hands up.
Oh, okay. So we can take maybe two.
So, okay, last two. All right, thank you. My name is James Tudo. I'm a community manager for IPs. Mine is not a comment, and this is like one of the largest issues in Africa, where Africans can express themselves, or African economies can express themselves. Yeah, for artists and content creators that get into Bitcoin and pushing Bitcoin agenda, I feel that we should just leave that to individuals, like Bitcoin corporations or Bitcoin focused companies can take the initiative and do more in that aspect. It's still part of education, it's still part of Bitcoin adoption agenda. So we should just leave this to let's just leave the artists to come on board. You could find out an artist putting a specific brand. That's one of the reasons also to be an artist. Like what IPTC did, supported an event called Colors Across River in Nigeria. That event goes across the whole state. And imagine taking Bitcoin idea to non-Bitcoiners at the state level, and that is that event, goes across 1 week in tourism event. So yeah, that's just some of the ways that we can actually influence and get artists involved.
Thank you.
Just give me a comment. Is there a question?
Good afternoon, I'm Dr. Ojoma Ochai, Secretary to the World Technology Forum of Ghana. Please, mine is a question and comment as well. My first comment is, in our quest to bring the showbiz entertainment into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, we've got to look at the regulatory issues. Because the reason why in Ghana, we do not have people like Blackshare, Sakwa, Shatawali, Soulboy, signing on Bitcoin platforms or promoting is an issue of regulation, because our government or the central bank of Ghana not recognize Bitcoin as part of the monetary transaction in the state. So if these actors as brands want to come on board, there's going to be a problem for them. So we can look at that as well. Then private sector, how we can promote Bitcoin for financial liberation. Because in Ghana, our major issue is unemployment, where my fellow Ghanaians here can confirm that this year finance minister announced in Parliament of Ghana that government is not employed, and that's an alarming issue for us as well. I'm sure it is not only in Ghana and other African countries that come to employment. These are the conversations we can have around Bitcoin for the students in the university communities as well, to see how important it is for us to promote. My question is, all these things that we have enumerated, how can we get the emerging youth in university communities, in tertiary training centers and all that, to understand the need for Bitcoin and how it can liberate us economically? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the question. So maybe we just start with you. I know we have questions. Have you got
Yeah, kind of
Like,
like
I remember the first, second, so, I mean, so you're talking about, artists, producers, influential people, why aren't they talking more about Bitcoin and opportunities, in the space? I guess, it's also early, right? I think, the fear is that, they may educate wrongly. I think that, they also have, that is a very busy person as it is. But I think that, for me personally, I think it's more about, educating them in terms of how do we onboard people in the safest way possible, right? I don't think it's great to get them bogged down in the whole conversation around, art and, on different chains and what have you. I think that, largely speaking, I think in various articles we can see that a lot of, use cases, aren't really worth it. I think that use cases, quite small, and it's like in the music industry, right? You have a lot of artists that, release music and distribute music. The vast majority of it is very good, right? But, you have your Davidos, your Wizkids, and you have the ones that will come out tomorrow. So I think that, for me personally, it is about, how do like me and you talk to them? How do we actually, help, get them to have that conversation with their fans and their followers? I think it's also on us to figure out, okay, how do we create better UX, better experiences? How do we make it fun, right? When you listen to music, when you watch a movie, it's quite fun. I think a lot of the conversation on Bitcoin is obviously, it's cash-based, it's monetary, it's talking about, devaluation of currencies, inflation, bad government, and what have you. Not necessarily fun to everybody, right? So I think, it's literally about educating the guys who might be able to see on Jazzy, how can we make it fun, working with other devs to create better experiences, for me personally. And I think, when it comes to, how do we make it more beneficial, I think it's similar. Something, even though I guess there's not a lot of fans of Ormos in the building, I think Ormos is still a very new technology. It was literally, I think, January 2023. I think today we've had about 45 million Ormos subscribed on the Bitcoin blockchain, and it's like, fine, it's a year, not even a year old, right? So in time, I think it will be beneficial. I think, as you heard from other people on the panel, how important art culture is to humanity in general. We understand how important money is. Art and culture is also massively important. I think I alluded earlier to the benefits on both sides, of this conversation. There are benefits to Bitcoin in terms of onboarding, and the benefits to the art community, music community, and what have you, the wider creative community, with regards to how they can bridge geographical barriers, how they work. I think that we also forget is that once you subscribe, work on Bitcoin, it's subscribed forever, right? It isn't really like, other chains where you have like a pointing to a file somewhere else, right? We're talking about having an art subscribed on the blockchain, being it's an irreversible transaction that you can use for them, what have you. So I think there's lots of things we can obviously come up with, but again, continue to educate, talking to influential people to help us onboard and run to more people is a way that I think we'll get a much wider benefit and better understanding. I'm all for talking and educating, but I'm kind of like nobody, right? And I do think that we do need, important influential people, supporting us in having this conversation. Because as the panel touched about, it says it is, currency for humanity. It's not for me, it's not for you, to the entire human race, right? So, we can do a much better job, and I think I'm working on it. You guys should be working on it as well.
Thank you so much, Michael. Rounding up, there was a point that was raised about regulatory issues, and then any of the other questions. Do you want to touch on that? And then we'll come to you and these will be your sort of final comments. Not like the
The interesting thing is the conversation around Bitcoin never ends, first of all. And someone raised the question on who is supposed and how can we get to people? This is my word to you. You are the one who's supposed to go and do it messy and make mistakes and correct those mistakes and build from there. Because he talked about getting influential people on this. You are the influential person that we are looking for. Everyone has to do something in this space so that we can get hyper-Bitcoinization. And then for artists, someone asked about artists, why they don't speak about it. First, an artist will not mess with their bag, first of all. We have to be in that reality. The company that is sponsoring them, how they make their money, is completely on the opposite side of where Bitcoin is. And so the discussion here is for us to be able to help them see the value that we have on this side so that they can sacrifice what they have on the other side, because the truth is we will not wait for the laws to be favorable to Bitcoin for us to start building things in Bitcoin. You better build. If the government comes in, deal with that when that comes in. Otherwise, we will always be on a chicken and egg situation in the Bitcoin space and never ever do anything. You know the problem, you know where the shoe hurts, so take care of it in your community. When you do that, you help us just move a little closer. When it comes to the government regulations that every single government is trying to figure out what to do with Bitcoin, that's not a problem. You continue building whatever you are building. Because when it starts affecting people in normal life, honestly, it will affect them and not Bitcoin, because essentially we are aware that Bitcoin is censorship resistant. So whatever they do in terms of laws, of course, I'd love to be in those conversations where a government official is sitting down and trying to bring in regulation so that I tell them this is what you need to actually say. And those are conversations that we can hold with time. And I think one of the most important things I'd love to leave with everyone is I would love for you to be the thought leader. If you can look at yourself and the information that you have about Bitcoin, that's enough to tell someone else because they know less than you do. And then you keep on learning and influencing more people. Yeah.
One of the things that I've been able to witness is just how powerful this space is. Like, I'll just give you an anecdote. It's not an anecdote. There's a woman who I knew was a digital artist who was in a very, very abusive marriage. And while the world was shutting down, she found economic freedom through digital art. She started selling her pieces anonymously and was able to have in possession some financial wealth that she wouldn't be able to in society. And then those are the powerful stories that surround all this whole entire universe that we don't talk about. I think one of the biggest barriers we have is our language, and I just wish we had a linguist also help for us to define different terms, but the language that we need to explain Bitcoin to be more accessible to people outside the box. So for me, I'm not really discouraged by the space. I'm not really getting down on us too much because it's actually quite insane the things that we're trying to do. It's actually quite a new way of thinking about what we think is valuable and how do we create value. And I think that art is always in the forefront of that. I'm really excited to see new artists who are going to find financial opportunities and also create a new generation of artists who will finally bridge that gap between art, tech, and finance that has been missing all along.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Michael, Ojoma. My key takeaway from this panel is that Bitcoin can be beneficial to art and entertainment, but reciprocally, art and entertainment can be beneficial to Bitcoin. And so we have to find more opportunities to bring those two ecosystems together and collaborate. Thank you all very much for listening.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Ojoma. We are on schedule. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We're jumping up into the next one. It is on Bitcoin literacy. It is on Bitcoin literacy.
Thank you. Yeah,
and that is innovative.